So you know you're in the background video. I don't care. I'm just letting you know because I think you'd care.
Not being locked in a room. Looking forward to sitting down all day long. Emily.
Over a $3 receipt, for a key today. And file.
In a word, targeting our family and dad. It's amazing how much business tends to be cracks.
Just goes to show you why stop the catastrophes.
It's a good thing that we're so good at what we do.
Right? Come on.
My home kitchen.
Yeah, it's nice to be able to focus on work instead of chaos that you was doing the last few months. Gosh, how love those big. As bad as things were, they could have been a lot worse.
I'll touch.
Yeah. That's just the word, so. But I'm just grateful things worked out the way they did. Oh, man's got 5 years left with us.
Because he does.
What's that supposed to mean?
I checked in on dad earlier. Just seems very morose on the beach. I just don't like him. It's very disconcerting. You wouldn't have to be working now, would you? I thought you're supposed to be taking it easy for a few days. Is that the new motto?
Yes, yes, and I have a feeling that you haven't covered that you are forgetting. Your grandmother tells me you've done a wonderful job at Elf Industries.
I've learned so much from her. Her wisdom, her energy. I'm doing some new challenge, and I just came to see what's next.
You should have the other. What's your plans?
Mom said that you were doing really well, but I wanted to make sure that you were okay.
Well, to be honest with you, and I think it's still a little kind of, but. You're back at every bag in no time.
Oh, great. I'm hoping that that means that maybe you can do me a favor. It's really important, or I really wouldn't mind it.
Yeah.
Are you free for dinner today?
You might love it.
And what about me and Kyle?
Oh, well. Sure. Hey, Mom said you had a lot of fun with the last painting project.
You keep that light. Oh, that's so fun. I too. Separate snaps. Snaps are cool too. Totally.
So anything else happen from the school today? It's fun.
I get to make a voice. She wants to talk to you.
Yes.
What? I'm hungry, guys. Can we put together?
Yeah. Do that.
What do you need?
Wait, I have an idea. How about we all do dinner at your house tonight? We can get started on it right away.
I love that. Hey, actually.
Say yes.
Listen, you're so that's thing.
Mary, we're gonna hear that, they're gonna hear the TV over the computer. They will still hear it no matter how much you turn it down. Well, then I gotta move, one or the other, but this isn't gonna work. No, I'm moving. I told you that already. Yeah, I said I'll move. Please, we're online. Coming on.
You don't have to have a thing for me to sign tonight. Is it on the agenda? Evening, Jim. Took you a long time to get settled in.
Hey, guys,
Larry.
how's the volume?
Fine, good. Hey, Chris. Hey, look at the board, Gren, you met Jason Booth and Robert Elliott. I'll wait till we.
Yes.
And Annie from Annie Wheeler.
Oh, thank you. These are the best. Oh.
We got 2 more minutes to be official. And I don't see Jim on, is he?
He's on.
Is he? Okay, I got the
I
wrong.
even have video.
Wow.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Not sure what I did, but
It was, he was
Yeah.
better looking.
I like your headset.
it keeps the president of the house from saying, turn that down.
Oh, there you go. Mine threw me upstairs.
Well, she booted me out of my office and I'm in hers right now. It's not the same.
Yeah, the video works there.
All right, I'm gonna call the North Hero Water Board meeting to order, February 10th, 2025 at 6 p.m. Any adjustments to the agenda?
I don't have any.
Nope.
Okay, hearing none, we'll move on. Approval of the minutes, January 13th, 2025.
Make a motion to approve the minutes.
Second.
Any discussion? Not hearing any. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any nays? I don't hear any nays. Thank you, Lisa. The 2025 Water Board minutes draft, that's what that was, right? Is that
Yeah,
just
those,
added? Okay. Approval of the warrant, February 10th, 2025. We got Fund 21 and Fund 22. How's that looking, Frank?
Good. I want to propose a motion to approve the two warrants. Fund 21 in the amount of 18,316.76. And Fund 22 in the amount of $2,315 even.
I'll second.
Okay, any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any nays? Not hearing any nays. Balance sheet, let's see, looking over that, anything special you would like to point out, Lisa?
the maintenance expense is over budget. Equipment and equipment maintenance,
Okay.
a lot of maintenance.
A lot of
There
that.
is a lot of valves going bad.
Okay,
Other than that, everything's right in line.
excellent. Thank you for putting that on there. Any questions for Lisa? Okay, not hearing any on the balance sheet, the budget status. Anything on the budget status you want us specifically?
No, those are just the attachments. That's why they're showing there.
Okay, all right, thank you. Recognition of visitors. Do we have any visitors outside our listed topics? There, we have Carl. Carl's there for the water storage tank. And I saw another hand, or was that somebody pointing it?
Let me point.
I see
Rob.
Rob Higgins
Yeah,
online.
Rob
Larry.
Higgins with Negley and Chase Construction
Okay, but
for the
these-
water tank.
okay, these are all folks for the next agenda item. Anybody not on the agenda? Okay, not hearing any. We will move forward. And I think everybody knows everybody here by now. But if not, I want to start off that I'm Larry Dupont. I'm the chair of the water board. And I would like to start with Brian and go counterclockwise. If you could just give your name and your association.
I'm Brian McCarthy. I'm a member of the water board.
Frank Cody, member of the water board.
Andy Alling, member of the water board and owner's designated rep for the storage tank project.
And
Carl?
Jim Blandino on Zoom, a member of the water board.
My turn?
Jason.
Oh,
Jason
ahead.
Booth, Australia, project manager.
Corinne Jula, I'm town clerk. Annie Wheeler, I'm with Statewide Aqua Store.
Carl Rutland, Chair of the Select Board.
Rob Higgins with Negley and Chase Construction.
Welcome, Rob.
Thank you.
Is that everybody? Great. All you folks who were able to attend tonight for this discussion, it's appreciated. So we're going to start with a water storage tank project. We had a discussion with Negley and Chase, Aldrich and Elliott, and contract phase 1. So the agreement, I think Andy and Jason, you want to start that off?
Yeah, it's a pretty standard agreement for construction. No real issues there. I think the one thing that we've been concerned with is the schedule. And I think we've impressed on everybody that how important that is to the water department here in North Hero. But other than that, it's a pretty standard agreement.
Okay. Yeah, we are a time crunch. My concerns, even though we have a finish date in there, is the additional part of it, which is to make sure that it is up and going. I talked to our water plant operator today, and he still has some concerns too. And I'll list those when we go through talking about the pre-construction meeting, of what he would like to maybe have addressed more for some interfacing. Otherwise, let's see, from Negley and Chase, the agenda that you have given us for completion, you're confident that that's solid?
Yeah, the schedule we have. I'm
Yes.
comfortable with it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. And the tank representative, I understand you're gonna try to do your best to maybe get it to us sooner. Is that correct?
That is correct. We're gonna do everything that we can. I think the important thing right now is getting everything done on the front end. Basically getting the tank into manufacturing as soon as possible. That could shave a week or two, in the right direction. So, yes.
Okay. And for Negley and Chase, if that happens, will you be able to capitalize on that time, or will it end up being a dead time?
No, I think we'll be able to capitalize on that time. Our start mobilization date right now is based on the delivery of the tank. So our hope is if we can pull the tank back a little bit, we can pull our trades back as well. That'll require, sufficient notice, of course, to get our contractors on there. But I think the strategy is probably to plan on a tank delivery 2 weeks sooner than what we're showing, and be ready for it.
That would be awesome. That would be much appreciated. All right, board questions? Okay, so at this point, notice of award, Andy?
But the plan is for all of that, the signing of those documents to take place on Wednesday at the pre-construction meeting. So we'll sign the agreement, the notice of award and the notice to proceed. And that'll trigger Rob to get a contract with Aquastore. And then we met the other day. We'll do everything on this end. Jason has agreed to expedite review of their shop drawings. So we'll do everything up front that we can to expedite the process.
Okay. Additional questions on that from the board? Anybody? Okay, so I'm gonna move on unless there's an objection to Part B, pre-construction meeting, which is what we're talking about on the 12th, which is 2 days from now. I believe Kevin wants to attend. Can you
Yes.
make sure he understands when and where? One of his concerns, which he has brought up in the past, and I want to make sure we have fully answered what he needs to make him feel comfortable and that he can comfortably use what we're going to give him. The big thing is the communications back and forth from the new storage facility and the plant. He does have concerns there. One of them being that it's different software that's going to be communicating with our plant software. He's been told that it's compatible, but he has concerns, and he's also seen where something different has occurred in another application somewhat like this. So I would like Jason to make sure that you're aware of his concerns and anything that we can do to make sure we don't end up on November 19th with something that's not communicating the way it should be, or that we realize we went down the wrong path. And he's brought this up for quite some time. And I think it's gotten pushed back on the back burner a little bit, but this would be the time to address that. Your thoughts, Jason?
Yeah, so there's been some communication, I think in November, December timeframe with Wayne and Kevin. So we have a placeholder in the current total project cost for a small purchase so that we can coordinate with Kevin to get what he wants for communication process with the tank. So that's something that, yes, we'll be working with Kevin on, and we won't be waiting until November for that to happen, for sure. So.
Okay, good. That was a concern that he gave to me, and I'm sorry.
That's something we'll talk about at the pre-construction meeting as well.
Okay, great. Any other thoughts from the board or input you may have for Andy and the other key players on the 12th?
Just Rod, just out of curiosity, how much work does Nagley and Chase plan to self-perform versus subcontract?
Well, we're going to build the building,
Yeah, okay,
and the rest of it will be subcontracted.
okay, and just who do you know who your major subs are right now?
Yeah, yep. Our site contractor sub is his name is Cutting Edge. Guy's name is Ben Bernor. Good guy.
You know him?
Yep. Concrete, we're between a couple right now, so I don't really know. Electrical is I believe it's Standard Electric. Daryl King. We have good experience with. Mechanical, there's not much, but I still probably Alliance Mechanical, I would think. Yeah, I guess those are the major subs, right? Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep, no problem.
So it might be good to help Kevin with his concerns of whoever's going to be purchasing that equipment or installing that equipment, or is more knowledgeable than Kevin in the new equipment. It's probably good to put them together at some point. Does that seem reasonable, Jason? Or
yeah, we'll coordinate on that.
Okay, good. So that's all the input that he gave me. And I don't have anything there unless somebody else has something else. So not hearing anything. You guys are good on the 12th.
Look, Larry.
Yes.
It's Carl.
Yes, Carl.
So I've heard quite a bit here. I'm pleased with it. The sooner the better. I think everybody's striving, shooting for that goal there. To try to up this, delivery time, whatever. With that being said there, I'm going to leave you all alone and I shall go back to my home.
All right, thank you.
All right.
Thank you, Carl.
Thanks,
All
Carl.
right, take care.
I think Andy and Rob were all set with you. You're welcome to hang around and
Okay.
see government in action.
Well, thanks a lot. Happy to be on the team with you folks, and I'll see you all on Wednesday.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate
Bye-bye.
it.
See ya.
Let's see, authorized official resolution. So, that is the one that the state requires every time, for the authorized rep. I'm looking for it here. Well, it's in there somewhere.
It's page, 30.
Page 30. There's only 111 pages.
No, or no.
Take care.
I'll see you soon.
Page 24 on the paper one and page 30 on the online.
Okay, page 24.
That's the paper. You probably have probably on page 20 on.
Yeah, it's page 24. Page 30 was from the select board.
Page
Page
20.
20.
They had.
Just trying to confuse you, Larry.
Yeah,
Well,
sorry.
page 24. Well, the other thing is my Google has one page number up top and then the other page number down on the bottom. But anyways, yes, page 30 or page 24, your choice, is the resolution from the town of North Hero authorizing Andy to be the authorized rep for project number one here for the water system. They have it, the water system improvement project, phase one. Okay, any questions on that? Not hearing any. Okay, so that's gone.
So this is just notice that the select board approved it.
Yeah.
That's why it's on
Yes.
your, okay.
Yes, it's approved. Step 3, construction loan progress update. Where are we at? I guess I should say Lisa and Jason.
So for the tank project, the step 3 loan application has been submitted. We submitted that, I think in early January, I believe.
Yeah.
And that's in the state's hands. It's in their process. So I don't have an update on that. It's only been a few weeks. It's gonna take them a little while to process that before you see the loan paperwork. Could be another 4 weeks or so before, at the very least, before you see that loan paperwork come back around from the state. So it'll be a little while.
But we're where we're supposed to be right now.
That's right. Yep.
Okay, good. Any questions from the board on that? Or Lisa, do you have any questions on it?
Nope, I do not.
I do. Beginning to end on those processes for that particular type of
For approval,
application,
for
yes,
approval.
like kind of front to back.
On the drinking water side, that's a hard question to answer these days. We've been seeing timelines improve. But we've seen some loan applications that have taken up to a year to approve on the state's end. I could name any number of reasons why that they can't process applications, but that's kind of the timeline. Like I said, they're improving on the step 3 side. But they're still backlogged, they're understaffed, you name it. So hopefully it comes in sooner than that. The ones that were taking longer had some other timeline issues on the state's end that took a little bit longer. The newer applications that are going in seem to kind of be going through faster. But I would expect that before you see a requisition from the contractor, you should have a loan in place. And we'll make sure, we typically check in with them. If we don't see things from them or hear from them, we're normally checking in about once a month on things to see where they are. And just get an update from them. And they'll say, oh, it's getting closer to the top of the stack or whatever the case may be. So once they approve it, it'll have to go to the bond bank, and then the bond bank will get you loan documents to sign.
Right.
So there's a couple steps that are involved at that point. But once they approve it, you can start submitting for reimbursements to the state.
Thank you, Jason. And the great thing about this loan is we don't have to start paying the principal back until basically a year after the project is complete, correct?
1 year from substantial completion is when they finalize the loan and they essentially true everything up to actual cost of the project. And then that's when you start paying your loan payments.
Great, it's a great deal. All right, any other questions on that? I'm gonna move forward. Project cost summary, updated budget summary status. I believe that's you, Andy.
Yeah, that's, well, I don't know what page number it is.
Well,
Mine says page 25.
25. Updated, yes, okay.
Okay, so, yeah, I worked with, Peter, our consultant, I got the numbers from him. This is just a high level summary for now to show where we're at. Shows our original budget, which that goes back, I think, over 2 years, so not surprising that our updated budget is higher. So that shows the updated budget, you know, includes the contract amount with Negley and Chase, updated engineering estimate from Aldrich and Elliott. So that shows a total budget for phase one of $2,140,000. And then you'll see the rows below that is our anticipated funding sources. 500,000 from USDA, 409,000 from CRRP, and the roughly 940,000 from the revolving loan fund. And that ends up with just under 300,000 out of our reserves. Now, one thing you'll see the asterisk next to the drinking water loan fund. USDA needed, since that's not finalized yet, they needed assurances that we would have enough money to progress with the project even before we get that. And so if you'll see down at the bottom, it shows the amount of money in our reserve fund right now, which says we could more than cover the entire 940,000 if we had to. Sounds like we hopefully won't have to cover any of it because it'll be here in time. And we've spent $111,000 to date. So that's just kind of a snapshot on phase one as to where we are right now. Peter is here. I mean, he can go into more detail if you want to see that at this time. But.
Yeah, Peter, I got a question for you. I thought we had a conversation back this summer on the CRRP funding. That we could use as much of it as we wanted in phase one, but had to meet the 20% in both projects. Has that changed?
No, that was never that's not what your grant agreement says. And so your grant agreement was broken up as a portion of it was going towards the water tank and a portion of it was going towards the water line. So I spoke with Andy about this last week. Did make a few inquiries, and as I have been aware of with other clients, CRRP, once you sign the grant agreement with them, there's just no really changing it. So the way that is broken up in your grant agreement, which is the 409,000, like Andy said, for the water tank, and I think 440 and some change for the water line is how it has to be spent. If those amounts were equate to 20% of the proposed budget in your application to the CRRP program. That's where the 20% comes from. So unfortunately, even if your project costs increase, you don't get any additional money. It just means that the amount you're getting from CRRP will end up being less than 20% of the total cost, but you're not getting any less money. You're still getting the same amount for each portion of the project.
Okay, so which numbers did we give them then? Did we give them the updated numbers or did we give them the original?
No, that was back when you guys did the application.
So the 409 isn't a good number then, is that what you're saying?
That is the number that's in the grant agreement.
Okay,
That's what they awarded to you for
Okay.
for the water tank part of the project.
okay, so the 409 is 20% of the 1,792,000.
No, that was the 409 is what I don't have the application information up in front of me because I wasn't expecting the question, but based on the application information is what the 20% was based off of. So that was probably from a very early estimate from Aldrich and Elliott.
Yeah, 2 years ago at this point.
Okay, so it's not really 20% of either one of those numbers is what you're saying.
Not any longer. No, it's I'd have to do the specific math to find out. It's going to be less than 20% of the updated budget based on the bid from Nagley and Chase, just like Andy said, and based on the updated estimate from a couple of weeks ago from Aldrich and Elliott.
Okay, because I just want to look at that. I was sort of planning on having the funds there. Now we got to pull an extra 291,000 out of the reserve fund. And that sort of plays into the next one of phase 2, how much we have to pull out of the reserve fund. So
I mean, unfortunately, none of us can control the increase in costs. So
no, we just have to know as we're spending if we have the funds or not. So
I understand. So the only I can't guarantee what I say next. I can't guarantee that will happen, but I did make an inquiry. So of your current funding sources, the only one that potentially, and I use that word intentionally, potentially has any ability to have some flexibility will be your NBRC funding. Now, we could go back to NBRC and we could, inform them that we, have put out a formal bid for phase 1. The project has come in, considerably more than, was expected, and, provide the documentation to them and then request that, say 291,000 or whatever the amount, 300,000 from that bid be applied to the water tank. Now, there is some paperwork that goes along with that. I would have to work with Lisa and Andy to put all of that together. There's no guarantee that NBRC will approve it. That being said, they historically have approved requests like that, particularly in a phased project like this. The only caveat to that is, we're taking from Peter to pay Paul on this one, because if we take it out of NBRC, that means we're going to be taking it out of the water line project. So whether it comes from one of your grant sources or whether it comes from one of your reserve funds, it's still going to be taken from phase 2.
From phase 2. You know what I think would be good is if you can run out the numbers of what we have for phase 2 after this to meet with the 20% or whatever we need in there to meet the overall requirements to fully spend all the money. And I just
Well,
thought,
the budget information that I sent to you folks after the last meeting included all of that.
okay, and
You requested that at the last meeting, so after that meeting, I updated it with the information from the Nagley and Chase bid because you awarded the contract to them, and then updated it with the new estimate from Aldrich and Elliott, because none of your funding sources had changed any, so.
okay, so I guess we need to get a hold of that and look at it, because the one I saw sort of, I sort of remembered we had to pull like $1 million out of our reserve account. Do you know that number, Lisa, Andy?
Yeah, I was just focused on phase one because we have pretty solid budget information now. I wasn't as concerned about phase two yet because we're just starting the detailed engineering and we'll be refining the numbers. But broadly speaking, Larry, we were looking at a little over $2 million for phase two for the water main. Where that money's coming from is $1 million from NBRC, 400 and whatever thousand from CRRP, and so the balance, call it 400,000 or 500,000, would come out of our reserve fund. That's
So it'd be 4 or 5.
big picture
Okay.
where we are right now.
Okay, all right. That seems reasonable. I think maybe we peek at that again, just to make sure that if there's any advantage, and maybe Peter knows this without even doing it, if there's any advantage for that magic number at the end of the 291 from the reserve fund going, disappearing from there and using some of the northern borders there. I do.
We'd have to make a request, a formal request to them to make an amendment to the agreement and get that approval. And you know, that's something that will probably take a few weeks. They had the NBRC had kind of shut down because of the federal government change, you know, things that have been implemented, as well as they went through some staffing changes at the beginning of the year. So they just sent out an email at the end of last week notifying everyone that they're back up and running and do have funding available after they got some further clarification from the federal government. So that will be a process, you know, that will probably take a few weeks to go through if that's something the water board chooses to do.
Let us look at it first. We're going to put that on the agenda for next time around and explore it to see if there's any advantage of it. If we pull that 291 out of there, do we end up having to spend less money overall, match wise or not? I don't know that answer.
Well, as we've discussed before, you already have the signed agreement with NBRC that you do have to spend a specific amount from your reserve fund in order to get that funding. So I mean, the numbers, well, now that we have the updated numbers for phase one, those numbers are going to stay pretty static, and they're not going to change moving forward. They may change slightly, as Andy pointed out at the last meeting, once we get the schedule of values from Nagley and Chase, which hopefully will come in the next couple of weeks, but unlikely to change very much. So the next thing, and we can't really do anything concrete with phase two yet until Aldrich and Elliott at least gets to 60% of engineering design, so they can give us an updated estimate, because right now the estimate they have for phase two is more than 2 years old, and that's just not realistic, unfortunately, this time. So we can't really talk too much about phase two at this point, in my opinion.
Yeah. Well, here's how it's going to work, Peter. We're going to come up with a number that we can spend over there, so that it'll end up going out with a contract for additional pipe in the ground, but we're going to come up with a number that says we're going to spend 1.5 mil or 1.75 mil, and that is sort of going to be it for how much work that we do over there, funding wise. So the question that I have also on the Northern Border funds, tell us about when we start spending it. So we're looking at the timeline over there, and let's just make it up. We got a $2 million contract over there.
I prefer not to make things up.
Well, it's a simple question. That's why I'm using this as a comparison. Can we use all the Northern Border money first before we go and grab other funds to meet our timeline? So if we got a $2 million project, or $1.5 million project, can we take $1 million from the Northern Border, spend that right now, get reimbursed for it, and then get reimbursed for the other, and then spend the other 500,000 finishing the project? Does that work, or does it have to be?
I'm sorry, I'm not following what you're asking there. Northern Borders is dedicated to phase 2. So once you start incurring costs for phase 2, you can start requisitioning against the Northern Borders, but not until you start incurring costs for phase 2.
Right. So phase 2, we start engineering. Can I take money from the Northern Borders?
I believe that part of the Northern Borders grant agreement does stipulate that you can use some of it towards engineering costs and some of it towards construction costs.
Okay.
It's in the budget that was submitted.
Right, but yeah, back to the original, what was submitted in the original budget, that's right.
Correct.
And can we get reimbursed for $1 million worth of that stuff before we have to use the CRRP and our reserve fund?
So because you listed CRRP and other funding sources in your application, they expect that you will be drawing on a multitude of sources simultaneously. That's how all of the federal sources work.
That's the answer I was looking for. Thank you. We're just looking for ways to try to extend out that deadline if we need to. Okay.
Yeah, Larry, just one question, please, for Peter.
Yeah.
So, Peter, I'm going to try not to antagonize you with this question because I've asked it a bunch of times. And last time we spoke, we were on a phone call. Maybe it was like late November. And I was asking about a list of our constraints across both projects, right? What are all the details of all the rules that we have to play within numerically, right? Per the grant agreements and based on what we have in our own reserve account. At the time you had mentioned that it was in the back of the model. I looked there, I didn't see it. Maybe I looked at the wrong place or at the wrong model. But given where we are with the construction timelines, with the amounts that we're talking about here, about our need to, in my view, it's gonna be a cash flow issue. And making sure we really can't have any mistakes. So I think we really have to all make sure we agree on what those constraints are and how they apply. And if we do have to go back to Northern Borders or anybody else, that we identify those and get them on a list and start, keeping track of the list. But I feel like we haven't all sat down and agreed on what the constraints are that come from all the binder of documents that I have for each of the agreements. And, you said it's built into the model. It might be, I can't tell because you sent a PDF. There's no list of constraints at the end. You told me it was at the end. Maybe I looked at the wrong version, that's possible. But I still didn't see a list of constraints. I sent you a list of maybe 12 constraints that I came up with, but at the time, there probably was an incomplete list. But I was asking you to take a look at it and either respond or try to agree where we are on this. So I would like to formally request that we come up with a list of the constraints and make sure we all agree what they are. If that takes us all going back through all the grant agreements and the applications and everything and doing that, I think we need to do it. Because we really can't have any misunderstandings or we missed a constraint or something that causes us to go off schedule. when we start construction.
I know these grants pretty well. I'd be willing to work with Peter on that.
That's
That
great.
has been done since, that's been done since October. There's a page in the development budget that has been shared with you multiple times that outlines every single component that is a restriction of each grant. You had all of those grants signed at least since last summer. And it outlines each of those restrictions.
Okay, but does it include the cross restrictions that apply where you can use certain monies for certain grants? You can have to, and there are percentages that also apply to the matching and the way it's done. So if you're telling me all that's been done, that's great. I've been doing it and coming up with my own version of it. But I didn't see anything like that. You might have seen, I might have seen on your model 3% contingency maximum or something, but I didn't see anything consolidated in the place where we could agree that those are the points.
Let me
So
share.
that
it.
exists. That's
It does.
great.
Let me, can I share my screen?
Great.
Right? Is this what you're talking about, Peter?
Yes, that is correct.
That's the list of constraints. It's in the performa, and I'll send the
That's
performa
correct.
again tonight, but that's the list he's talking about.
Yeah.
That is
Okay.
the, thank you. That is
That's
correct. That is the page.
That's what we're looking for. Yeah.
All right, I'll send this to everybody tonight, right now,
Thank you.
so you
Thanks,
all
Lisa.
have it.
Thank you. Thanks, Peter.
That's been there since October when you requested
Yeah.
it the first time.
Yeah, like I said, you referred me somewhere. I didn't see it. I might have been looking at the wrong version or I missed it, but thank you.
Corinne, I will send you I thought I did send it last week, but just to make sure when I leave the meeting here, I'll send you the updated pro forma from a week and a half ago. That specific tab you just shared has not changed any, but the other numbers that Andy and I spoke about after your previous board meeting, just to make sure you share the correct ones
What?
with the water board.
I'm sure we have it. I was actually, I just didn't know how quick, I couldn't find it as quickly as Lisa, so
Okay.
I was trying to help
Okay,
with things.
no problem. Okay, as long as, because I thought I shared it with all of you. But
Lisa
I'm happy to
just
send it again.
Okay. Any additional questions at this point for Peter? Thank you, Peter, even though we haven't gotten to you yet. Timeline. And we're talking water tank schedule revision. What am I looking at that? Water storage tank, am I on the?
Yeah, that's the one from Jason, right?
Well, actually from Nagley and Chase.
Nagley and
but-
Chase, okay.
Okay, so that's, okay. And everybody saw that in there?
Yep.
Okay, questions on that? So I do have Wagner up now. I think most of the questions, does anybody else have any questions for Peter at this point?
Well, I think we're good, and, I just hoping to get a little bit more refinement on phase 2 before we really get into a lot more detail on that.
Yep.
Hopefully that
Yeah.
happens over the next couple of months or so.
And the thing is, when the office receives something from Peter, make sure that it is forwarded to the board. We because I think that's where a lot of the questions come from, is sometimes the full board isn't getting the information.
You're probably right about that, Larry. I'll make sure from my end that it gets to the whole board.
I
So,
just checked. I've never seen that model before. I've never received that.
Okay, that might be my bad.
so
My bad.
it, anyways, so Peter, you're welcome to, I don't see anything else. You're welcome to tune out. Thanks for
Okay.
coming.
Yep, have a good night, everyone. Andy and
Thanks,
Lisa,
Peter.
I'm sure we'll be in touch soon.
Okay,
Thanks, Peter.
Good night.
All right, SOS report, DBP issues. Brian, Andy, anything new there?
No,
Everything is fairly, okay. Site plan approval for 216 Rockledge Drive. If everybody would pull out a copy of that out of your minutes. And if somebody finds it first, if they can share a page.
Yeah, having a copy is one thing, being able to read
read
it
it
is
as
a whole different
something
thing,
else.
but,
Yeah,
I don't see a page number. Oh, it must be page 28.
Page,
on the end. Do that helps?
Oh, yeah.
oh yeah, okay, so let's see, page 28 on the bottom. All right, so unless Brian or Andy knows something that I don't, or Jim or Frank or anybody, please chime in. My understanding is from his note on Friday in his review, Kevin's review. And I called him just to follow up to make sure. He has two issues. One issue is there's no easements for the town and it's private property, and that he wants easements. On top of that, if you look at this plan and the water line goes down to Route 2
Yes,
on it.
and we have a curb stop there.
The curb stop is at Route 2.
Yes, on the east side.
It's not up by the house.
There is also one which is not shown and which Kevin wasn't aware of. There's one right at the house too, already, so they can be.
Okay, so
They can be controlled separately.
So there's one at the house. So his input was, he sees the easement that that they got from, I can't see the small stuff, David and Lori. Begins with an M. What's your neighbor?
Yeah, it's Dave and Larry Joe McGavero. I know the place well. I supervise the installation of the line. And I know that they do not have an easement yet because they have not come to an agreement with the Squires yet.
So he wants an easement for the curb stop.
Yep.
The new one that's being applied. He also, to protect the run, and I don't know if he knew it was at the house or not, but you see where they're hooking on to the existing line. He would like to see an easement on the east side of where they're hooking on in case there is some damage to that line, to that gentleman's house, so that they don't end up, oh, I think I lost you guys.
No, we're here. I'm trying to share it, so maybe you could see it better.
Oh, okay, so that they don't have to shut both down. Meaning if they have a leak on that portion of the line to the east of where he's hooking on to it, then both of them would be shut down. And if they put a curb stop just to the east of where he's hooking on, it would solve that problem. So those were
the curb stop by the house is between where they're hooking on and the house, so it satisfies what he's looking for.
It's between the house and there.
And where they're planning to hook into the existing line.
Okay, so that's what I guess I'm comfortable approving it if Kevin gets what makes him comfortable with what he's asking for. He's asking for an easement to be able to shut it off and to make sure that there's a way to shut off most of that line going to the current owner's home from the other side of where the new user would hook to it. Does that sound reasonable? Are you saying it's somewhere in the middle between there and the house, Brian? Or it's right at the house?
It's down by the house, which is like 100 feet from where they're planning on intersecting the current line. I'm looking at it. I've got it big on the screen in front of me now.
Yeah.
And you're gonna move some.
No, this should be good. What they're not showing,
Is actually, if you could move it up just a little, so we can see the bottom portion. Keep going, right there. So what we're talking about is where the square is down here and going to the right. He is saying where it intersects right there, he wants a curb stop right on the east side. Pretty tight to it right there by the road.
Right here.
That's what we're, yep, that's what we're,
I don't do it very well, but.
that's,
this is proposed curb stop for the new line. And Kevin's saying he wants one right there before it goes to their house.
right, well, what is that little black thing? Was that you, Brian?
Can you scroll us this way at all? Lisa?
So go down. So he wants it where the water line, the W. Where the W intersects at 90 degrees.
Yeah, they don't show that. Here's the existing water line. It comes off there, and Kevin says he wants a curb stop. Where, by your understanding, Larry?
Right where it does the 90-degree intersect. He wants it right on the east side.
Isn't it proposed 1-inch curb?
No, he
stop
wants
or
it
what?
here. Yeah, he wants it there. Okay, well, let's tell him that.
Yeah, that's, and his thought is also, you know, easement wise, to be able to shut it off is there. It's also to be able to isolate it if something happens further to the east down to the gentleman's house. Because if it does, you know, he's thinking both people end up losing water. He's got to shut it off at the neighbor, and he's got to shut it off. Well, he's got to shut it off at the road. He's got to shut it off at Route 2 and lose both of them.
Okay, well, let's send it back to him and say we need a curb stop there.
Yeah, we need a curb stop there, and we need easement.
And certainly need an easement. That's a good. Another nice thing about that is it would give us access to both of the secondary curb stops here with one easement.
Yeah.
The easement will have to come from the owners, the Magaveros. But they're proposing to put the curb stop for the new one on the other person's property, so we need an easement from them as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I suspect this will probably put the kibosh on the project. If he wants to have that curb stop there, because the whole premise here is the Magaveros don't want a curb stop in the lawn next to their driveway there. That's why they put it over on the other person's property. So if Kevin's adamant about that, then let's tell them that. But I don't think it's gonna work.
All right, well, let's let's give Kevin permission to go negotiate, and if he comes up with something besides that, I'm sure he'll have the town's best interest.
Yeah, let's ask Kevin to report back to us, and I'll call Kevin tomorrow and discuss it with him. I know all the parties.
And then the other part I think we should have before we approve this is they have no contract with the town. So they haven't signed a contract, haven't paid anything, was the other thing that Kevin pointed out.
They can't submit their application until this
Okay.
is gonna suit them. So let's make the fixes we need to make on this. You're gonna send it back to them and say, with the application, you might as well already have your easement in hand.
Yep, so that's what he pointed out, the three things, easement, shut off, and they haven't signed a contract with the town. Those were his concerns. So I would think, we need a motion for that, or are we content just having Brian go back and coordinate with Kevin?
I don't think we need a motion.
No, I'm fine with that.
Yeah, I'll get a hold of Kevin tomorrow and we'll report back.
Okay,
But this is just, they're showing us this plan. It's not an application to accept the plan. We don't have an application yet because they don't have an easement to include with it.
right, no, but he's saying what's missing for the whole project, and those were the three things: easement, shut off, and an application is brief. So, all right, anybody more questions, or can we move on? Moving on, water credit supervisor report. Lisa?
Yep, so we have $9.94 outstanding for fiscal year 23-24.
Wow.
And I know.
You've been remiss. Go get it.
And,
993, somebody couldn't add.
yeah. And for 24-25, $12,878.55. That's because we had a payment just due in January and there's quite a few outstanding for that one, so.
Okay. And we're doing what we're supposed to do with all the letters and everything.
Yes, we are. Yep.
Okay. Water allocation letters. I think I signed, did I sign two?
Two, both on South End Road. One is for property that's looking to do a subdivision and add another dwelling. And then down near you, Andy,
Yeah,
is
my
looking to
neighbor Paul.
do a big subdivision
Yeah,
with multiple units.
yeah, 5.
Yeah. So,
Okay. Questions on those? Once again, they're just there to notify you guys that I signed them through the authority you gave me to sign them, and it's SOP with the state. Board discussion action items, winter work projects. Is that stuff like shoveling, ice removal?
He's been busy replacing bad valves lately.
Okay. Phase 2, US Route 2 water line replacement. And, my apologies, we should have probably moved this up. Is Jason still there?
Yeah, very patiently.
Yes.
You know what, Jason, I'm terribly sorry. We should have moved that right under,
No worries.
my bad. I know you get paid by the hour, right? Not by the minute.
Thanks.
All right, so, phase 2 is, the contract was on there, which is the old contract. There was conversations about enhancing that with the timeline, talking about how that we, well, I mean, let's have a conversation. If this one went right now, well, what's the timeline you're giving us? Why don't we start there, Jason?
So in the revised engineering agreement I sent over to you and Brian today, I don't know if either of you had a chance to look at it. So I moved things up.
I did.
Yeah, I moved things up about a month for each milestone, so we're looking at wrapping in November. 30%, I believe, was May. 60% we were looking at July. 90% submittal, which would be the permit submittal, is September timeframe. And then wrapping things up, finalizing after presumably we get permit comments back. Finalizing the project in November and being ready for bid.
It looked good. I had a couple of questions on it.
Sure.
One. Maybe I missed something. Do we really have to go through a archaeological study to dig up where we've already dug up?
Every single project. So
Cause that last time it took us 6 months to get them out.
so this is part of the timeline. This is why I have concerns and trying to compress things. There are things that we have to do that we can't control, and that's one of them. So this is just, so what's included in this contract, just to be clear, is an archaeological resource assessment. So that's basically the first step. It's kind of a desktop analysis that they do to review the area of potential impact.
Yeah.
And then once they complete that ARA, what we call it, that has to go to State Historic Preservation. And Scott Dillon at State Historic Preservation has to review it, and he either concurs with it or he has comments on it that need to be addressed. Or it goes into phase one, which is where you do shovel test pits. I'm hopeful that we don't get to phase one because it is along an existing alignment. It hasn't been that simple with archaeological. So what's included in here is just the ARA to hopefully just check that box and we can keep moving on. But until we do that, I don't know how that's gonna play out.
Okay. Another question I had was, in sampling and so forth. We did quite a bit of prep work earlier on this project, but with different options. Where one was on one side of the road. Can we reuse a lot of that data? That we don't have,
Sampling, you're talking about soil, like.
well, there were
excavation
probes, we did probes and stuff.
Yeah, we can reuse some of that data, and depending on where we decide, what we decide to do. And where we decide the alignment should go, we may need to supplement. Data if necessary. But that's less of a schedule impact in my mind. But yeah, we can certainly reuse what data is available.
Cause in my mind, if we're gonna go with pipe rupturing, we're gonna be in the same trench the whole way.
We are, absolutely, and I think that that's an option we need to explore. And I think you were copied on the email from Wayne in December as well, where we talked about pipe bursting.
Yep.
And there's actually a good candidate for pipe bursting that's about 500 feet or so long, maybe a little bit longer, that doesn't have any services on it.
Yeah.
Which is a great candidate for pipe bursting. And that we don't have to dig up the road, we have to have an entry point and an exit point for excavation.
Yes.
But everything in between, we just pull a brand new pipe right through, which would be a great alternative.
Right, and can't we do that for actually the bulk of it and then?
We could, so if we, and we certainly can, and I think it's an option we should explore. And one of the things that I talked with Larry about earlier today, it's worth exploring how far we can go with that pipe bursting, only because that may be able to improve on the timing. So that may be a process, and I need to speak with the vendor before we get too far, but that may be something they could start early with, like in winter, potentially.
Who are you looking at for a vendor?
So
Is
we
it
talked
Barry out of Maine? Or
initially, I'm sorry,
is it Barry from Maine?
so it's not Barry anymore, it's Vortex that owns them.
Yeah, but it was Barry.
It was Barry.
Yeah.
So it's the same company. Well, essentially, it's somebody purchased them, but yes. So we had conversations with them initially about this application. They felt it was a great application. So we need to kind of, once we get to that point where we have an agreement, we can start getting into these discussions with them. We need to talk with them about the logistics of how far we can go with that pipe bursting. In pipe bursting areas where there are service connections, there's going to be a little bit more effort, only because you've got to connect those existing services over to temporary water.
Yeah.
But then you've got to dig down and you've got to tap the new line.
Yep.
And reconnect. So it's not as much excavation, but there's still some point excavations that are going to be required.
Every service is gonna require
Every service,
excavation.
and there's not a ton of them, right? So,
There's 13 maybe.
right, so it's not a huge impact. But that's just another, so if there is, if we were just pipe bursting this whole thing, we could probably, that ARA, they could just check that box, the archaeological, because we wouldn't have to do any excavation.
Right,
If we've got to do excavation, that's where we're gonna have to get into this. So I think there's some options that we can explore, and the pipe bursting for this application, I think, is a great alternative.
So Jason, just for the board, do me a favor and,
Yeah,
uh,
I'm sorry.
yeah, for the board, just, tell them what pipe bursting is. And also for everybody, is it more expensive? Is it the same? Is it less?
Yeah, so pipe bursting, to answer your first question, they'll do it in segments. I can't remember their limitation, but let's just say it's 500-foot segments where they burst pipe. And as Brian pointed out, it's more splitting, but it doesn't really matter. It's semantics, they call it. So they excavate, they have an entry point and they have an exit point where they have to excavate and cut the pipe open, and they put a reamer, so they put, it's almost like directional drilling. They put steels down the pipe, steel pipes threaded together down the pipe, and they put a reamer on one end, and they pull that back through, and it splits the pipe and pulls the new pipe into place at the old pipe. So it basically, you're using that existing pipe as sort of a guide point to bring that new pipe back into place. Again, you'd have to excavate if there are any services and tap the new line and tie those services back over. Minimal impact to surface, not as much surface restoration, not as much pavement. You have to tear up and then put back and pave over. And this was just some very preliminary ballpark numbers that we got from Vortec in December. It looks like it's an overall cheaper alternative than an open cut excavation would be. That's why I think this is with the limited number of services, I think this is a really good candidate.
Yeah, I mean, that sounds ideal to me.
Yeah.
And, you know,
Yeah, I
Does that-
do.
How does that impact water leak detection and water line repair, being cased inside an old pipe with a slit in it?
Yep, that's a great question. The host pipe, I'll call it, the existing pipe would still be there. It's still gonna be in the trench.
I get that.
Yep, what they pull back through, and this is gonna be again similar with directional drilling, would be a tracer line so that you'd be able to trace the pipe after the fact. So you'd have just like when you put in a plastic PVC pipe, you might have a coated copper tracer line that's installed on the water line itself, and they come up to termination points. So you can put a conductive reader on one point, and then you can trace the line out and find out where it is.
Because if a pipe bursts, if the replacement pipe inside the chaser has a leak, that water can run a significant distance before it becomes visible on the surface too. It can move it's like a water leak on a ceiling. It's not where it drips down through the first floor from the second floor isn't always where the leak is above.
Yep, it could.
I don't think it would be any worse than how it already follows a ditch.
Well, so that's what I was gonna say. So if you put a brand new water line in, you're gonna put it in with 3/4 inch stones. So you pop a leak, at point A, and maybe it doesn't surface for another 1,000 feet down the road because it's following the stone trench line, and then it comes up at the low point. So, it's kind of a similar situation, but you're right. I mean, you could run into that problem where you're not able to necessarily pinpoint the leak exactly. Could be an issue.
Well, it's only gonna go up to 500 feet because every 500 feet, we're gonna have a new excavation where they have a pulling.
Or we have a termination point, yeah.
Right, and in that area, they would remove all of the fractured pipe.
That's right.
And the material for the new pipe, HDPE probably?
Yeah.
Fused
Most
HDPE.
Fused HDPE,
Okay.
most likely, yeah.
So is there any?
Process where you're able to essentially use the old pipe as a conduit for the new one.
Yeah.
And maintain the diameter and the flow, so.
Right.
Any longevity issues doing it that way versus the stick?
I'd say it's just about the same. You're basically putting a brand new pipe in the ground.
Mhm. Okay,
The
You know, I'd
coating
say-
on the HPDE pipe, the coating is that coating get disturbed and abraded as it's being pulled through 500 feet.
Now, so the HDPE pipe, a pressure rated HDPE pipe let's say we have an 8-inch ID HDPE pipe. Your OD on that pipe is about, I want to say it's about 11.5 inches. So you've got a thick wall on that HDPE pipe. And it's no different than drilling through rock. We do rock drills. We did one under the Missisquoi River this past year where they drilled through rock ledge, and pulled HDPE right back through. So
And there's no coating on the HDPE.
it's
correct?
just
Yeah.
HDPE.
Yeah,
Yep,
it's just solid.
just solid HDPE.
I
Yeah,
mean,
It's
we're
not like
gonna-
a steel, it's not like a steel pipe with a coating that gets interrupted and you wind up having a galvanic problem.
no.
Which
that's
is the
right.
problem we're repairing.
Right.
That's the problem we're repairing, correct?
You know,
Corrosion.
I'm convinced that's what happened to our ductile. It was, you know, the coating was
What
removed,
year was that installed?
95, more or less.
95.
but every place it is, it's always looks just exactly like somebody put a link of chain around that pipe and took the coating off. All the holes are exactly the same size.
Yeah.
Anyway. You got more
Okay.
questions on the process, Jim?
Onward.
All right, anybody else questions on it? Frank?
Get through. What we may want to do, sorry to interrupt, Larry.
That's
When we
okay.
get into the design phase, it may be beneficial to have Vortec come down and speak with you folks.
Oh, yeah.
And talk about the process. We've had them in our office a couple times to do lunchtime presentations. So it could be a good opportunity for you to ask more detailed questions from those folks. So we can arrange that if you're interested.
Cool.
Yeah. How's-
One
how's-
more concern, just, are there other people that do that? Because with our funding, you know, we need to,
It's gonna have to be,
Competitive
it has to
bidding.
be publicly, it has to be, it
right,
has to be competitively bid. So
Yeah.
it would be part of a larger project, Andy.
okay,
And whether they bid as a GC and they
Okay.
do the project and carry a
Yep.
sub-consultant, or if a GC bids the project like a dirt contractor, like say a Munson or a
right,
Portland Construction.
yeah, there, yeah.
Maybe they bid it, they carry them as a
Yeah.
sub. Then-
Perfect.
And then you have somebody that's doing the excavation and then they coordinate the pipe.
Yeah.
First incoming.
Perfect.
Okay. So any chance we can set them up for our next meeting and catch them when they're not busy versus wait until the summer months or?
You're
what's-
talking about the Vortex folks?
Yes,
I can certainly reach out to them. When's your next meeting?
Month from, second Monday of every month.
I think it's the 10th again, March 10th.
Yeah.
It is, March 10th.
10th.
okay. All right, let us know what you find out there. So back to phase 2, secure an engineering contract. So, we're there. Brian, you looked over the new timeline and the contract. What, you know, one of our concerns, and I think Jason sort of answered it, this time around, the contract that we, well, there's two different steps to the contract. We had the engineering contract, which we're trying to tighten that up time-wise, and we appreciate you working with us, Jason. And right now, if you put the same timeline that we use for the contractor on the water storage, if we finish this in November, it means you more than likely would put it out to bid in December. You'd receive the bid results probably in January, and you would probably sign off from them, let's say the 1st of February, end of January. And if we went with the contract we currently have, it says 365 days for them to complete. So what we talked about is this time around, we obviously can't wait until February of 2027 when the funds run out in 26, of tightening that up and putting milestones in there. Is that correct, Jason? That would be the way.
Yeah,
to
it's, yeah, so just to be clear, the contract calendar days are different for every project. So it depends on the nature of the work. So just because the water tank was 335 days, doesn't mean that the linear water project is going to be 335 days. So that's a modifiable number based on the type of work and the duration expected for that type of work. So that can be less. The other piece, though, that Larry's talking about is there is a section that we can put in the contract that's sort of built in already. This is the construction contract, and the contract front ends that we put together for bidding is a milestone section, so that if there are any timeline milestones that we want to have the contractor hit, we can put those into the contract. So we can talk about those as we get further into and what we want to put into the contract for timelines.
Okay. Unless there's any more questions, we probably need a motion to take that revised engineering contract with that new schedule and pass it on to the select board.
I'll make the motion that we approve that contract and pass it along to the select board for their final authorization.
I second.
Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any nays? No nays, so it passes. Route 2, let's see, do I need application? Yeah, I need you just a little longer, Jason. Route 2 water line replacement, drinking water step 2 application. So we filled this out, Jason, as a Hail Mary. Working with Wayne last time, it looked very difficult for us to be able to get any points to get funds on this, but we thought maybe we'd just throw it in.
You should. Yes,
We should. Okay.
yes.
Okay. So we will continue with that. And is there anything we need to know? And I'm hoping that Lisa and Jason will coordinate on that for whatever we need. I don't think we need a lot at this point, do we?
No, we just need Brian to sign it and then I can send it to Jason.
And I'll submit it through the portal.
I can't sign it until we've approved my signatory power on it. Don't we have to have a resolution for me to have signatory power?
We need it for you to do, I don't know.
You guys can just make a motion to authorize him to sign that application, because I'm guessing if the authorized official, it reads the same way as Andy's did, it'll be for Brian to be the owner representative for phase 2.
Right.
Right.
You just get this going in advance.
Yeah.
All right,
Yeah.
so
And we
So-
didn't need Andy's one until we basically need him to sign the contract, right?
right,
We had
until it came
also,
to contract.
authorized him separately for each of the financial streams, because
Right.
those don't necessarily fall under the umbrella of phase 2. Or, well.
Right, but we do that later.
Or the other, but
So right now, we just need to give Brian authorization to sign this document.
yeah.
Right,
Okay,
Motion.
which. So a motion,
Yeah, Frank seconded.
further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any nays? No nays. Okay. And so we did that timeline. So we got the timeline. So the timeline is, you know what, Jason, we don't need you anymore. You're welcome to hop on the highway.
I'll send that to him in the morning
Okay.
because we want a copy. So.
You're not throwing them out though, but.
you're the
Oh, yeah.
representative, yeah, that's the.
All right.
Thank you for your work, Jason. It's much.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Absolutely.
See you Wednesday.
Yep, thank you all.
good to meet you, Jason. Good seeing you.
Yes, thanks.
All right, so the timeline for the Route 2 line replacement. Let's put a document together. And I think what we need on there is what Jason sent And he said he sent the new one. Did he just send it to us or is Lisa on there?
He sent it to you and me, I think. Can you
Okay,
forward it? to
can you,
Lisa?
yeah, can you forward it to Lisa? And there's a timeline on there, Lisa. If we just cut and paste that, and then down below it, I think we finish, he's saying in November, so we would put the additional, we'd put December, bid it out, January, award the bid, and then just put February through September, and September's the in red.
You want me to forward that to you, or is Larry gonna do it?
I think he asked you to.
Huh?
Can you forward it to me?
If you could do it, that would be great. So we just want to put a timeline like we did with the water storage.
Okay.
All right. God, this is a long one.
So you skipped over the
Did I-
authorized official.
Okay,
So-
I thought that was the motion, no?
That was just to authorize.
That
him
was
to
just
do-
to authorize them to sign the application. If you're gonna make Brian an authorized official, it's gonna have to be like a resolution, right? Is that what, yeah, that has to go in front of the select board.
That has to go to the select board.
So like, but it's different than the one that the select board just signed, right?
But I'm not gonna need that till this gets to bid.
Yeah,
So.
I don't think we
it's
need
too
to-
early.
We don't need it tonight.
Okay.
Okay.
Does that sound, did you get anything different, Andy?
no, I mean, that's how it worked with me. I got authorizations as we went through the process, and then I got the resolution when we were ready to sign the contract.
Right.
Yeah.
With the
Yeah.
general contractor, yeah, so I think that's fine.
Okay. Thank you. So timeline, that was 6, 7, 10. I have 3 pages of paperwork here. Authorized official timeline. So discussion of the disbursement. So I think, listening to Frank and listening to some of my questions, it seems like we're on the right track of getting that information. And is that you, Frank, or? Oh, so I think the key thing is if that information changes, it sort of needs to be sent out to the entire board, so the board knows what's going on, so we can look at it and say, you know, that's great for phase 1, but what's it doing to phase 2? Out there. And what's it doing to the reserve fund? We got money now, but we still want to have money tomorrow.
Right.
And I don't want to spend it all. I want to have something left. So it would be good to go down through there and show what we are projecting to have left. In case something happens, I think is important. All right. I don't have any more to go through that unless somebody's got other questions, except that information is going to be emailed to all of us in the next day or two by someone in the office. Is that
The
good?
pro forma? Are
Yeah,
you talking about from Peter? It's already in your inbox.
okay, so it's done. That's quick. That's quick. CD,
I serve at the pleasure of the board.
CD, investments, financial. Frank, where are we CDs?
Yes, so on our monthly roll schedule that we've been following, we have everything coming due. This month, we have one today, and then we've got a couple within the next couple of weeks, 3. And I am still recommending that we stay on this schedule. And the world continues to get stranger and stranger every day. And I don't think we've seen the end of it, so I think we need to continue to be as flexible as we can be.
I make a motion to keep with the 1 month rule.
I'll second.
Hmm.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Uh,
Aye. Any nays? No nays. Okay. Appointed position update. So Lisa, that went out last week or so?
Yep, the select board has sent their information out. It was in the Islander. I then posted it around town and put it on Front Porch Forum for your request. So it's out there.
And March 3rd is the deadline for the water board, correct?
Is that what I put? Yeah.
Yeah,
Is that what,
I
like?
think that's what it said, yeah.
Yeah. A week
So-
before, so I can get it in your packet.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And
You got
where do you have
No.
to send it? If you're interested, where do you send it to?
The town office.
Okay, an email to you?
Sure. Yes, it
I
was
think you
my
said to send it to the water board.
attention, the water board, yeah.
Yeah, the water board email address.
Okay, so,
Do you guys know who's up here?
Yeah, it's Jim and I.
Oh, okay.
so both of you guys, that's on your, are you both willing to serve again?
Jim, do you think they want us back after all this?
Yes?
I don't know. Do you want to have me?
Yeah, I'll get my letter in.
So, so let's get that in the next week, so we don't forget that.
Yeah.
Executive session, I'm not seeing a need at this point to follow through.
Did I miss us talking about the USDA grant?
Yeah, we sort of went through all three of them and said, is there anything we need to talk
Yeah,
about?
we should talk about the USDA.
I'm sorry, I was making notes about what to put on
Yeah,
the select
the
board agenda
compliance review.
for the, yeah. Well,
Okay.
I hope I can make this really quick. I'll jump right to the water tank property, not open to the public. We have a compliance review on Thursday with a list of items that Andy and I have been working on. I can bring you more detail later. It's things that are going to be required. That will have to be addressed at the select board level and be adopted townwide, like 504 compliance, ADA compatibility, language, accessibility plans. So I'm working through these. Peter also has been supporting me as I make some key decisions to bring to the select board. And one of the things he has recommended is that the location of the new water tank and associated infrastructure is designated as not open to the public. So
It should not be.
Yeah,
Well,
That
there's
said, it
gonna
should
be
not
an
be.
electronic access gate to get into the site, so the general public will not be able to open that gate. Is that adequate?
I think, well, I was hoping to just have that brief discussion
Yeah.
and get it in the minutes that it's not anticipated.
Why don't somebody do a motion for what Corinne is looking for? And that will give her the information she needs to satisfy it.
And as a heads up, I think the only thing I can foresee, not having been through this before, potentially being an issue is that the property is owned by the state of Vermont, so we may not necessarily have that authority. But I wanted you all to try and authorize it, and I was gonna send it to our lawyer to just make sure. Or unless you want me to ask that first, these are the things I'm trying to navigate.
Well, I would say we have a lease and I think we just do a motion that it's not open to the states, not the public. That the water board infrastructure being located on whatever that address is specifically not open to the general public. I think just a motion for that, and then if your person needs more, I would take the next step. But sometimes it's good to just give them and see if they want the next step without telling them there could be another step.
That's, you nailed it. I wasn't gonna say it out loud, but you nailed it. So, yeah,
So can somebody do that motion?
like,
You just did.
Yeah, and I'll second.
Okay, discussion, Lisa's looking.
The motion is that 285 Station Road, where the new water tank and associated infrastructure will be designated as not open to the public. That's what I heard.
Yes.
And who
That's
made that
exactly what
motion?
he
Larry,
said.
did Larry make it?
Yeah, Larry made it, yeah.
All right,
And I seconded.
I got you.
You should get rid of all the fluff words. That's what he said.
You know, fluff is good sometimes. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, any nays? All right, we took care of that.
It was a security issue.
Executive session, I'm not seeing a need right now, maybe as we move forward. So I'm just gonna pass by that unless somebody else wants it. Future agenda items, can we start at the top real quick? The regular placeholders, water storage tank project update. Down through there. I would think we'd want to put right after that the phase 2.
You want to move those up, both of those? Because we
Yeah,
have this- Okay,
up there. And then stick the timeline for that under phase 2. Keep the construction loan progress update for the revolving loan fund for both of them on there, step 3 and step 2. Discussion, I guess, keeping the disbursements and requirements for grant fundings down there, and we could have a joint discussion when we get the look over the information. Financials still there, and we need appointed positions, interview and make recommendations to select board. Anything else?
we have the operating fee coming due, the end of March, which Kevin is gonna talk to Brian about.
The what?
Operating fee permit, the operating permit.
Yeah.
And how much
Beer.
is it? Is that like,
I did, by the way, I just set up an account.
Oh, you did on it, oh, good.
Yeah, so
Kevin's,
now
okay.
I'll get that stuff direct from the state, because, and I did it all by myself.
Oh, congratulations. Kevin was hoping you would do that. It's
So-
only, it's only $200, but it's an annual thing, and Kevin thought there was paperwork and
There is,
involved, and yeah.
yeah, so,
It came in late on Friday, so it didn't make this agenda.
all right, if it comes during March, just send it to me via DocuSign and I'll get it back to you.
Okay,
put that under SOS report. So
okay.
we're just in the loop. I guess follow up on the Rockledge project. That's all I have, unless somebody have anything else.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor, signify by saying aye.
I
Aye. Any nays?
Larry, I'm planning on putting an agenda out for Wednesday. In case you all are gonna be there.
The
What,
pre-construction.
pre-construction? I mean, it's real, Jason will be putting out an agenda. It's his meeting.
Yeah. And it's gonna be held where? Here. Oh, so we could attend in person.
Yeah, you can. The reason I didn't invite everybody is I was concerned about the open meeting thing, so I had invited Larry, and I think you can't make it, Larry, but no, it's Jason's gonna be running the meeting.
Yeah.
So
So do we not need an
you don't
agenda?
need an agenda, no.
Okay.
It's, as far as I'm concerned, it's not a water board meeting. It's a pre-construction meeting, run by the engineer.
Okay,
Unless three board members, there's more
You
than
have a
three board
quorum there, if you have
members.
a quorum there.
Yeah, you need
That's
to.
why, yeah, that's why I only sent the invitation to Larry. I
So,
mean, I think we covered the important stuff tonight. So,
so I think, Brian, do you want to go? I'm not gonna make it. So.
Yeah, I'll go. As long as there's only two of us,
Yeah.
we're good, right?
I have the
Only-
agenda
only-
ready to go. It's just. all I
Well,
gotta do
yeah,
is-
how did you, where did you get the agenda from?
I mean, it's a water board agenda. I just put
Oh,
that
okay, yeah.
pre-construction meeting.
No, oh, no.
Oh,
no.
but there, you won't be opening it and like
No, Jason's
calling it to
gonna be
order
running.
and
It's not an open-
motioning
yeah,
to,
yeah.
yeah.
It's-
Yeah,
It doesn't. Meeting law.
If you send one out, then all the public's gonna show up, which I
Yeah.
don't think it's a public,
That's the intent, no.
yeah. So, did anybody else want to go? I didn't want to leave, Jim or Frank out of the,
If you really want to go, I'm willing to miss it.
I am happy to.
Yeah, he went to the pre-bid meeting, so you can go to the pre-construction.
Yeah.
meeting, Right.
okay, so it's,
Or down there.
Brian's going. All right. Thanks, everyone. Sorry it took, longer than normal. Well, an hour and a half.
Not terrible.
No. All right.
See you, Larry.
Thanks for hanging in there.
Okay, good night.
Good night.
Good night.